Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Horror Movie Podcast. I will be your host, Anna, and this will be your host,
Luke.
And today we are going to be talking about a plethora of movies. Not a lot, but not a little. We'll be talking about 3 movies: The Boogeyman, Kristy, and the new movie called Thanksgiving that just came out this month.
Because happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thanksgiving was recently, and we wanted to talk about Thanksgiving horror movies, and I was shocked how many there are. There's actually a lot of them.
Oh, I thought there weren't any.
No, there's a bunch. I had trouble finding them at first, but then I found a few listing them off. But they all seem like just really bad slashers.
Oh.
Like there's one, it has like a murderous looking turkey on the front, and it's called Thanksgiving.
Oh my gosh.
And there's like 4 of them.
Why didn't we watch it?
Because I didn't want to. Next year.
Uh-huh.
We were going to talk about 3 of them because they put Escape Room on the list, put Escape Room as a Thanksgiving horror movie. And I watched that movie earlier this year, and I don't remember it having to do with Thanksgiving at all.
Interesting.
I think it just takes place over Thanksgiving break, and all of the rooms have some kind of thing on, like, what are you thankful for, sort of, but not in, like, a Thanksgiving way, in, like, a Saw way, almost.
Totally.
So, we skipped out on that one. We watched Kristy, which is a 2014 indie film? I don't know if
really
indie is the right way to say it. It's small, like, low-budget film, for sure. It's a small studio. That's what I'm looking for.
Small studio?
It's a small studio movie. Yeah. And then Thanksgiving, which just came out this November.
Yeah.
Which we were both pleasantly surprised by.
Oh, yeah.
But we wanted to talk about The Boogeyman because that came out earlier this year and we just missed our opportunity to talk about it. So we want to get into Boogeyman. I think you have a description for us?
I do have a description for us, Luke. I do.
Let's hear it.
The Boogeyman 2023. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. Still reeling from the tragic death of their mother, a teenage girl and her younger sister find themselves plagued by a sadistic presence in their house and struggle to get their grieving father to pay attention before it's too late. I just got that description off of Letterboxd, by the way. But yes, this movie has in it Sophie Thatcher, Vivian Lyra Blair, Chris Messina as the main characters, and then there's just a few side characters, but I didn't recognize like any of the actors in this movie except for Sophie Thatcher.
Is she the one that's in Yellow Jackets?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was wonderful. There also was I don't know how to say his last name, but David Dastmalchian. I don't know how to say that, but apparently he's notorious for he plays Lester at the beginning of the movie. Apparently he's notorious for playing kind of
that type of role.
Yeah, just like kind of insane, psychotic characters. So I thought that was pretty cool, and he did really well. Yeah. I read the short story for this.
I want to hear about the short story, and I want to hear about how it compares to the movie, but I'll just give out a spoiler warning real quick. Or let's do our non-spoiler review of the movie. Talk about what we rated it.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into the spoiler portion, and we'll do that for all 3 of our movies.
Okay.
So what did you give it?
I gave it 3.5. I believe you gave it the same thing. Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was... Here's the thing that people are saying about this movie. Every time I hear someone talk about this movie, they always say it's not special. Like, it's nothing new. It's nothing special. And, like, I totally get that. I totally get why that would, cause you to not rate it higher or be a bigger fan of it. But at the same time, I don't really have a problem with that with this movie, because the idea of the boogeyman, quote unquote, is such like an old thing,
Sure.
you know, like so many, and there's so many different stories about, like, anytime a kid talks about some monster in their room, people always describe it as the boogeyman, you know, and so I don't really have a problem with it in this situation. And it's also, I don't know, it just didn't bother me this time. Like, it was very predictable. There were a lot of things that made me like, this doesn't really, you know, this movie's not really anything new. But like, it honestly just felt like a familiar movie to me, and I felt like that was kind of something to remark on, because the idea of the boogeyman is such a familiar idea.
Sure.
Just like in our society.
Yeah, I mean, I also gave it 3.5 stars.
Yeah.
I think I probably could have given this movie 2.5 stars in terms of what you're saying, but it was so entertaining.
Yeah, it was.
It was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
And I was interested in the characters, and I was into the story. My biggest complaint about the movie is later in the end, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I just really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
I was really pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect anything special out of it. And just front to back, I enjoyed it. And I actually rewatched it to talk about.
Yeah.
And same thing. I just enjoyed the movie. And they do some really cool things in it. Like, this was in the trailer. The one of the kids has a moon nightlight that she can like hold. So it's just a ball that's a nightlight. And she uses that, or they use that in the movie in a really neat way, in terms of she like rolls it under her bed at one point because she hears a noise under her bed, and you get to see the light slowly go across her bed, go across the floor under her bed. That was really neat.
Yeah.
And there's a couple things that they do with that, and just their usage of light in the movie was really impressive.
Yeah, it was.
So I don't like, I get what you're saying. It averages 2.7 on Letterboxd. I think that's a little low, but it has overwhelming 3-star reviews compared to anything else.
Totally.
It has 11,000 more 3 stars than 2 stars, and over double 3.5 stars than 3 stars. So I don't know. 3 stars might be the like objective rating for this movie.
Yeah.
But I just had so much fun with it.
Yeah.
And later down the road, I'm sure I will rewatch it, and I expect the rating to come back a little bit, because I do agree with you in terms of it doesn't really do anything special, other than, I would say, how it plays with light in the movie.
Yeah,
I thought that was really creative, and they found multiple creative ways to do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
We'll start to get into the more spoiler portion of the review, but keeping on the topic of how they use light in the movie, at one point, there's a kid playing video games on the couch, and when she shoots whatever she's using, I think it's like a bow and arrow or something in the game, but when it hits, it flashes. So she shoots and the entire room flashes, and then she starts using that to look behind her. So she pulls the trigger, lets go, it flashes, and it illuminates the house so she can see.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
It was a really clever thing. And then later in the movie, the same kid, the young kid in this movie,
is a
super
genius.
smart kid. Yeah. She wraps herself in Christmas lights because the boogeyman stays out of light. I don't know if they talked about if he's necessarily afraid of light, or if it hurts him, or if he just can't go into the light. But basically, the boogeyman can't go into the light. So she wraps herself in Christmas lights, but the lights blink. So it has like half a second where the boogeyman can get closer or move around.
It's tense.
So those things were just, I really enjoyed that about the movie. Tell me about the short story.
Okay, so should we give our spoiler warning now?
Yeah.
Okay, spoiler warning for the short story and for the movie. So the short story, I believe I did read it before I watched the movie. So I read it before I watched the movie. It's like 20 pages long. It's really short. It was so good. I was like, and it was really creepy. I like, especially the end. So it starts off with what is his name? Dr. Harper with the girl's dad. Is that his name? Yeah, Will Harper. Dr. Harper in the room, and he's just finished with patient, and then a guy comes in, and it's like some random guy, and he's like, you're new. Hi, new patient, whatever. And the new patient is Lester, and he comes in, and Dr. Harper's like, so what do you want to talk about today? And Lester's like, how I killed my 3 kids. And he's like, whoa, immediately off put, but he's gonna like play it off cool. And then Lester starts talking about how, all his kids died from this entity called the Boogeyman, and every time before they died, they all said, Mommy, Daddy, there's a boogeyman in my room, and they never believed them. And then finally the 3rd kid died, and then Lester, just is having a breakdown, and he's like, I want to find whatever it is and all that kind of stuff. So he's talking to Dr. Harper. Dr. Harper gets up and leaves the room, and Lester's like, I can't really remember exactly how this sequence of events goes, but Dr. Harper gets up and leaves the room, and Lester sees that the closet is open, or he asked the doctor to close it as he was leaving the room. The doctor closed it, and then it opened back up, or something like that. And then from the closet comes out the Boogeyman and like takes off a mask of Dr. Harper and just like smiles at Lester. So it's like, in the story, it's like Dr. Harper was the Boogeyman, and whatever. But so it's obviously different than the movie because it's just that part. It's like the preface for the movie.
Really, that's it.
Yeah, and that's
interesting.
That's
really,
how it ends.
I'm more impressed with the writing now.
Yes, exactly.
Because to take only that portion of the movie and expound on what they did was really impressive. So that starts later. That's in maybe like the 15-20 minute mark of the movie is everything you talked about. Other than the Boogeyman doesn't take the mask off or anything.
Right.
You actually don't see the Boogeyman. The Boogeyman, he asks him to close the closet. He does, and then he walks out to call the cops because he's freaked out about this guy. And then he goes back in, and he's gone. And then he finds out that he's hung himself in the closet. Yeah.
So I would like to think of like combining the two stories, that the Boogeyman is just trying to get in Lester's head, and like that.
Right.
So that's why he did the whole mask thing. He's not. He's obviously not really Dr. Harper. But also something that they changed in the movie is Lester had these 3 kids, and all of them died from the Boogeyman. But in the movie, they really tried to build on the Boogeyman comes because you're grieving something.
Right.
So he lost a kid, the first kid, from SIDS, and then.
Right, which kind of opens.
Grief,
so they talk about how once something happens to you and you're grieving, the grief opens the door for this thing to enter into your life. So Lester and his wife and 3 kids lost a baby to SIDS, and then that opened the door, and the Boogeyman came in and ended up killing their other 2 kids. Yeah. And at this point, we don't know what's going on with the wife.
Right,
we don't know if she's alive or dead or anything. I think what this movie did do, because the characters it focuses on, the dad and the 2 daughters, just their family just lost the mom.
Yeah.
Of the dad's wife.
Right.
And they are reeling with grief. And I think it does a really good job of showing how different people deal with grief.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you have, and they're all in different stages. You have the dad who is in like full denial basically.
Yeah, totally.
He doesn't want to talk about it. At one point his daughter tries to talk to him about it, and he's like, oh, you're seeing your therapist tomorrow, you should talk to her about this kind of thing. And he is a therapist, and I can see how if you were a therapist, you wouldn't want to try every conversation with your kids. You wouldn't want to feel like therapy, but she just wants to talk to her dad, and it's so obvious that she wants to hurt with him. And she is in the like more acceptance, dealing with it stage. And the daughter, the youngest daughter, is almost in a different version of denial, and she's really too young to understand the depth of what's going on. Yeah. Like, she gets mom's not around anymore. She's what, maybe 7 or 8?
I would say, around 8.
So that it's definitely old enough to understand that mom's not coming back, but it's not old enough to really understand the weight of what happened and how it's really going to affect life. Yeah. And I think they did a really good job with that.
And with kids, you see them, when something traumatic like this happens in their life, developing like new fears, like she has of the dark, and so.
Which I feel like is another reason the dad is kind of refusing to believe them about this monster. Same with the older sister. Because the boogeyman first comes to the youngest girl and starts messing with her. And then I don't remember if they talked about this in the movie. I feel like they did. But basically, it feeds off of the trauma.
Yeah.
So it just, like, and it doesn't just come in and kill them. It wants to, like, feed off that trauma for a little while. So it scares them, and eventually it ends up killing them. But from there, basically, it's almost just like a haunted house movie for a while. And then it kind of comes to a point at the end of the movie where there's a big fight with the monster, and the dad and both daughters are involved. And we see an appearance from Mom at the end of it as like a spirit.
Yeah,
kinda.
an entity, yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that happened in the movie. I just don't know like what the purpose that they're trying to get at was necessarily with it.
I think it's I like thinking about it now, I didn't really it's hard to explain because like I don't really have an issue with it, but if I think too hard about it, I do have an issue with it, you know.
That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, because she's like trying to contact the mom at one point, and she's like, you know, really trying to sense her mom and feel like her mom is still there and stuff, and then it's like, oh, your mom is still here.
Yeah,
and, you know.
Yeah, and that's why I'd say the end of the movie just kind of fell apart for me because it wasn't like the perfect bow tie ending.
Yeah,
it was fine, but also the movie just felt like there was so much monster in it to me, and especially at the end. Like once you see the monster, he's just everywhere.
Yeah,
and it's funny because I was listening to a podcast where they were interviewing the director about it.
Oh, yeah.
And he said that this movie has less monster than Alien and Jaws.
Wow.
Like time-wise.
Yeah.
Which blew my mind because it feels like a ton.
Totally.
But also earlier in the movie, it just doesn't stop. Like it's like monster scene, monster scene, monster scene, monster scene. And you might not see the monster for the entire thing, but you get like a little glimpse of it.
Totally.
And I think it needed less monster.
Yeah.
I think some of those like creepy scenarios should have just ended creepy and you don't know what happened.
Yeah, totally.
Also, one thing the monster was doing was talking and was imitating voices.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Totally.
And maybe instead of seeing the monster when it imitates a voice, the character just walks around the corner and no one's there or something like that. So I thought it was really interesting that it has so much less monster in terms of screen time, but it feels like way more monster to me than both Jaws and Alien.
Sure. I don't know. I didn't have an issue with that particular part. I don't know. I really liked it. I think I was really nervous and had high hopes for this movie, or like tried to keep my hopes at bay because it's Stephen King and I love Stephen King's writing, and most of the movies that come from Stephen King's writing are not very good. I hate to say. So I was like really worried about this movie, and I feel like it like exceeded my expectations because I was trying to, you know, reel them in a little bit.
Yeah. And this is more of my issue with just monster movies in general. But typically, once I see the monster, I'm no longer scared by the movie.
Yeah, I
it's
get
like,
that.
It's been revealed, especially. One thing that was a little more scary with this monster is they couldn't figure out how to hurt it. But the moment they figured out how to hurt it, is like, oh, this isn't scary anymore. Like in any way, shape, or form.
Interesting,
This just turns into a sci-fi movie for me. It's just monster. Like, you know, so and with the majority of the monster we do get is in that last sequence where it's been revealed and they know how to fight it. And it's like, so for the ending to be like not tense for me at all because of that, I think that hurts it a little bit too. But again, overall, it was just a really fun watch.
Yeah, it was.
I just really enjoyed the movie. So.
I remember watching the trailer for this movie like in the theater when we went to see something else, and thinking that it was eerily similar to The Babadook, and then like after watching it, I agree, but like also don't agree. I just feel like they have the same kind of undertone, and there's a lot of symbolism in the movie, you know, where there's like they have this symbolism of the monster being kind of like grief and, you know, and then because there's the scene at the end where she's like in her therapist's office. What's her name? The main character. the teenage girl, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Her name starts with an S. I can't remember.
Sophie?
No, that's her real name.
Oh.
But she's in her therapist's office talking to her, and then we kind of get a glimpse that's like Sadie, yes. We get a glimpse of like, the door being open, and it's like, oh, is she gonna ask her to close it again? And it's kind of insinuating that the Babadook is still there, but she's like, fine with it.
What she does is the door opens.
Mm-hmm.
So she does her session.
Yeah.
And then the therapist leaves the room.
Yeah.
And she turns around and the door opens.
Yeah.
And she turns back around and walks over to the door and shuts it.
Yeah.
And what I thought that kind of did is I think it left the movie kind of open-ended, which I liked about it. And I think it left it open-ended in the way of, did they actually kill the boogeyman?
Mm-hmm.
Or did they just kill the doorway for the boogeyman into their house,
Mm-hmm.
Or is there multiple of these monsters? Because every culture has a boogeyman. Maybe these monsters are just living on Earth. And so I think it left it a little open-ended, which I liked. What I think it was really missing is the ending symbolism that the Babadook had. Because this one kind of left it more open-ended, but the Babadook had more of the ending had
more poignance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was it was pretty obvious what they were trying to get. That the Babadook is grief.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Babadook.
No, the Babadook is depression.
Right. So depression, and how you don't just get rid of depression.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to basically manage that.
Yeah.
Sort of. And of course, I'm oversimplifying it, but it kind of ended in that way. And I think Boogeyman was more open-ended, which I did like, but I think the other way is the better way to end the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I interpreted it differently. I totally thought it was like the symbolism, like, of her closing the door, kind of being like, I'm ready to start like having this new relationship with my dad and my sister, and like I think the I think the boogeyman is still very much a part of their life, and like, I mean, in the short story, like. So the parents have the two kids die, and then they, move away and start a new life and have this new baby. And for a year, there's nothing until the boogeyman shows up again. And I feel like it's like, I think the boogeyman doesn't really leave you necessarily.
Sure.
So that's how I took it as.
Yeah.
But I think it's, in my mind, it was more Sadie taking control again.
Totally. Yeah. No, I completely agree with that.
And so. I didn't view it as open-ended, but I do understand what you're saying, and now it's making me question the way I interpreted it.
Totally. Yeah, no, I know what you mean, and I agree that it's not necessarily open-ended for the character, but I feel like, it leaves some questions about, like, if they wanted to do a sequel, I think it would be really easy to play off of that.
Oh gosh, I hope they don't.
Same. It absolutely does not need a sequel.
No, absolutely not.
And I don't know, I'm so tired of them just doing sequels of movies for the sake of doing a sequel to try and chase the success. Like, this is a total side tangent, but if they tried to do a sequel for Smile, I don't want a sequel for Smile.
No,
I want you to go create a new thing.
Right.
Like, go create something new that's just as good and does just as well as Smile.
Yes.
But don't just make Smile 2 because it's the safe thing to do and it's going to be big at the box office. And I understand studios do need to do that because they need their big hits, but like this, we don't need a Boogeyman sequel.
No,
that falls into the same category. Like,
totally.
you made a good movie that was generally well received. It did well. Go do something else.
Totally.
Now, so.
Yeah. Anyway,
let's get into our Thanksgiving movies.
Kristy.
Yeah.
Let's start with Kristy.
So we'll start with Kristy. Now, this movie came out in 2014. Do you want to give us our synopsis?
Yes, I will. As you said, it came out in 2014. The synopsis is, when a college girl who is alone on campus over Thanksgiving break is targeted by a group of outcasts, she must conquer her deepest fears to outwit them and fight back. I really like how the synopsis on Letterboxd, again, I like how it puts it. I don't like, however, every description I've read of this movie has said she's alone, which she's not necessarily.
Yeah, not
like,
really.
There's,
she's not alone
there's
for the
not,
majority of the movie.
and there's not other students. There's, it's her and the security guard and the groundskeeper, you know, like they're all there. So it's not like she's totally alone. Because I remember when I was about to watch it, reading the description and being like, why would they leave her alone? Right. Also, I like in the description how it says it's a group of outcasts, because there's just, you know, in the description again that I read, it says a group of a cult of satanic worshipers or something like that. Sure. And I was like, and I just wasn't getting that for the whole movie.
Yeah. So, we both gave this movie 3.5 stars. It averages 2.9 on Letterboxd. I think that's a little low, but it doesn't have a ton of reviews. It only has, I don't know if I can see. No. But
yeah, it doesn't have a ton of reviews.
It only has like maybe 5,000 reviews, probably less. So I think if this movie was more viewed, it would go above three stars, but averages 2.9. I was so pleasantly surprised with this movie. The movie opens in a really strange way. It opens with a girl being chased down and murdered, and you don't really remember how that relates. I mean, you don't see for a long time how that relates in the movie. But you see some people like film her body and murder and post it somewhere. And then it goes all the way to Kristy. Or, sorry, not Kristy. What is her name? Her name is Justine.
Yeah.
So I was also confused by that. Like, why is the movie called Kristy when it's about Justine? Which we'll get there. But she's at college. Thanksgiving break's about to hit. Everyone's leaving. It's just going to be her and her friend at college, and then last minute her friend leaves. Yeah. And then she is just there by herself. She doesn't tell her boyfriend that she's alone because she doesn't want him to worry about her and come and ruin his Thanksgiving break with family. But there's security guards there, so it doesn't really feel like she's super alone. Right. But we also get a montage of her like dancing down the hallway and just doing like all the stuff that you would do if you were alone on a college campus, like doing all sorts of stuff that you just wouldn't do when people are around. Which just makes me think the security guards were like watching the camera, what is wrong with this girl? Yes,
totally.
But at one point, her friend leaves her car, so she takes the car to go get a snack from the gas station, and then she has this strange encounter with a girl there, and then goes back to college, and then the girl shows up and some other people show up and they're clearly trying to kill her. From there, it just becomes a game of cat and mouse, really.
Yes,
it's just her running from these three people.
Yeah.
But she is so smart.
Yeah, she is.
She is easily one of the smartest horror movie characters I think I've ever seen. And not in like a stupid cringy way or whatever.
Totally,
just some of the decisions that she makes, I'm just like, yes, like this is the type of thing we want out of a horror movie.
Yes.
Because we harp on horror movies all the time for characters being stupid, which I've defended a little bit of that,
totally,
you know. But once you know you're in danger, these are the type of things that you want to see.
Right.
Because these are the type of things that you would think people would be doing.
Yeah. And I feel like she makes like the dumb decisions at the beginning, but once she gets a firmer grasp on what's happening as time goes on, she starts making smarter decisions.
And then she's really fighting for her life. Yes. And there's one point in the movie where she decides
Is this a spoiler? Should we put the spoiler?
Yeah, alert? I think we're a little late into that. But definitely going into spoilers now. But there's a distinct point where she decides that she has to fight back.
Yes.
And once she does that, the movie just gets so much better.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And they keep calling her Kristy. And she's like, my name isn't Kristy. And at one point we get an explanation of that. Basically this group of people, I wouldn't really call them a cult necessarily, but more of this like collective of people who hate privileged people that get their way. She mentions like blonde hair, blue eyes, perfect face,
pretty
perfect
car,
life. A nice car, which, that actually isn't her car. I think that was one of the like most gut-wrenching things about this movie.
Oh my gosh.
Is she's not their target.
Yeah, totally.
But because they just assume the car's her, they think that she is this Kristy person,
right?
Which I think is a funny name to choose for it, but they just chose Kristy. It's like people choosing Karen,
totally.
So I was going somewhere with that, and then I lost track. What was I saying?
You're talking about like the group of people going after.
Oh yeah, the collective. So this like collective of people, basically they're killing these people that they think don't deserve what they are getting.
Yeah.
And filming it and posting it online, and they're like, kill all Kristys, basically.
Yeah.
Worst part of the movie. This movie didn't need any of that. I like because again, the beginning scene I completely forgot about too until I was trying to rethink about how this movie started. And then I was like, oh, right, they kill her and they loop that back into this. And but and then at the end of the movie, once she finally gets out, she ends up killing all 3 people off one by one. And she like gets one of their phones, and the police, was there 4? Kills 4 of them.
3 hoodies and 1 girl.
The girl was wearing a hoodie too.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, well, there's 4.
There's man in blue hoodie, man in gray hoodie, and man in black hoodie.
Oh, yeah, that's literally what they're called. Blue hoodie, black hoodie, gray hoodie.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. But once she gets away from them, she finds one of their phones, and there's a whole like ending like monologue about how the cops have used this phone to find all these other murderers.
Yeah.
And I just think you were just trying to add something extra to the movie that didn't really need it. The movie was only 86 minutes long.
Yeah.
So it definitely doesn't feel like they added that at the end because it was really short.
Right.
But honestly, the length of this movie was perfect. And I think they could have cut all that out and just brought this movie down to 80 minutes, 78, 79 minutes, and it would have been better for it. I'm starting to really enjoy short horror movies. A lot of horror movies don't have the story to support a 100-minute, 120-minute movie.
Yeah, totally.
Like, they need to be an hour and a half or less.
Yeah.
I've started a 90-minute horror movie list on Letterboxd, and if you go look, I guess it's about half that's over 3 stars and half that's below 3 stars. But I'm just starting to really enjoy shorter horror movies.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like they just added this whole underlying story to it that it wasn't really needed.
Yeah.
And so the Strangers, I watched that recently.
Yeah.
You've seen that movie?
No.
You haven't seen the movie?
No.
Okay.
But I do know everything about it.
Right. So, a spoiler alert for The Strangers, but it's basically just 2 people at home.
Yeah.
They give a little bit of story, and then these people start attacking them. And there's 3 of them, and they're wearing masks, and it's just, it comes to the end of the movie, and one of the characters asks them, why are you doing this to us? And the only line from all of the bad guys in the entire movie is because you were home. And that's it. And that's what's scary about that movie. The movie's not that great. It's not that scary, but it's enjoyable. But that line at the end just adds so much to it, because that's what people are terrified about, right?
It like puts a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. And to take this movie and be like, this girl had a strange encounter at the gas station, and the girl looked at her wrong, so she called her friends to come over and murder her, and that's it, and that's the only reason. That, like, I think that makes it so much scarier, you know, because that could happen to you. You could go to a gas station and you could look at somebody wrong, and they just decide that today's your day to die, but instead they just added, and I think part of the reason that I'm harping on it so much is because it was so little of the movie.
Yeah.
And it just felt out of place to me.
Sure. I don't know. It didn't really bother me that much. I honestly didn't have any issues with it. I totally understand everything you're saying. Like, it was completely unnecessary. I just was like, I didn't really care. Like, I was like,
Yeah. I mean, and I don't think it hurt the movie in terms of, like, I didn't give it a lower rating because of that. But we just got to the end of the movie. I'm like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
You know? Like, it seemed silly to me. But the rest of the movie was so good that it totally didn't have any effect on how I felt about the movie.
Yeah. There were a lot of actors in this movie that are not popular actors, except James Ransom, which I love him. Every time I see that he's in something, I literally like giggle. Like, I get so giddy about it. Do you know who he is?
He's in so much.
He is in so much. I love him. Who does
he play?
He's Eddie in It
right,
Chapter
but
2.
Who does he play in
He plays the groundskeeper with the dog.
The one that, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Who has one of the best lines in the movie.
Yes.
Because she goes to his house and she's like pounding on his door and he opens it and she's like, these people are trying to kill me. And he just looks at her and he's like, okay, you got to slow down because I'm so high right now. And I feel like sometimes those lines are like, okay, like just silly, like you're obviously not. But he did it so well and he was so obviously like too high for that. And then he's like, yeah, let me get the shotgun. And you're like, no, you should not be using a shotgun right now.
Oh, I love him. I love him.
He's also in Black Phone.
Yeah, I know. He's in like, the more I watch horror movies, the more I see him. And every time I see him, I get so happy. I swear I have, like, a little crush on him. A little horror movie crush. Like, he's just...
Sinister.
He's so great. And I don't think I've seen him in anything and thought he did a terrible job. Like, he is remarkable to me. So he's in this movie, but, like, I didn't recognize any of the other people in this movie except for the man that plays her boyfriend, because he's in a Taylor Swift music video and he's also in the Hannah Montana movie. But yeah, I was looking at the cast, didn't recognize any of them. The girl that plays Violet, who is the bad girl, the main antagonist, is in Twilight, but I didn't recognize her for some reason, even though she's my favorite character in Twilight.
Really?
Yes. But the cast is just so small, you know, like there's not very many people that I knew in it. And I love movies like that because the whole time I'm not thinking about, viewing them as a different character that they did really well in.
That's one thing that I think Marvel does really well with in terms of casting their main characters.
Yeah, totally.
And obviously this doesn't go for everyone, like Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man.
Right.
But a lot of their characters they pick to be the heroes are no names.
Yeah.
And they pick the big names to be the villains.
Yes.
And I think that's such a great way to do it because like Tom Holland, for instance, what did he do before Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Really? Like he was basically nobody.
Yeah.
He did have somewhat of an acting
He was like
career,
a child actor,
but that movie made him, you know.
Yes, totally.
But then you take Michael Keaton and make Michael Keaton the bad guy.
Yeah.
So you get one movie of great acting, star power Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
And then you get that compared to the no name, but then you have no preconceived notions about these no names.
Yeah, totally.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
And the main character, she's actually been in a decent amount of stuff too.
Ooh.
But it seems like newer stuff.
Okay.
It seems like Kristy was probably fairly new on her list, but she was in The Magnificent Seven.
Okay.
The Equalizer, Marley and Me.
Oh my gosh.
She was in The Devil All the Time. I know about this movie. What is this? Oh, never mind. Yeah, that's a Tom Holland horror movie. Anyways, Kristy was really good.
Yeah, it was.
Definitely worth a watch.
100%. Like, this was not a movie that I was like, I'll never watch this again. It was like,
it was really good.
I want to watch it right now talking about it.
One of the other things about this movie that I love so much is, and I've beat this to death on the subject, but there's no reason for this movie to be a Thanksgiving movie.
Totally.
None at all.
Yeah.
The reason I watched it is because it was a Thanksgiving movie.
Yes.
The reason I will watch this movie next year is because it is a Thanksgiving movie. And it actually feels like a Thanksgiving movie. Like the cop, she like goes to get something from the grocery store and she's like, asks the security guard if he wants anything. He's like, yeah, get me a pumpkin pie and get me this. And there's just like the entire time she's eating turkey pot pies. And there's just like a little bit of flavor to this movie that just makes it a little Thanksgiving that I just love when movies do that so much. That was a little cherry on top of the movie for me. Because again, now I have a reason to watch this movie every year.
Yeah.
When movies that are far worse than this, I watch every year anyways because they're Christmas movies or
Christmas,
whatever. But, anyways.
Yeah. I honestly forgot it was supposed to be a Thanksgiving movie because it didn't remind me about Thanksgiving at all.
It doesn't, like, there's no big Thanksgiving dinner.
Totally,
There's no, but
it's just no like, Thanksgiving 2023.
For sure. But the like little flavor of everyone's gone for Thanksgiving break.
Yeah, totally.
She's not going home.
Right.
All of her friends are with their families.
Yes.
And then the cop's asking for pumpkin pie, and she's eating turkey pot pies the entire time. And it's just like it's not a lot. It's not overbearing.
Yeah.
But it's just a little bit on top of the movie that makes it more special for me,
totally,
who wants that extra theme and flavor in movies.
Yes, definitely.
And I just don't understand why horror movies don't do this more often.
I don't know.
Throw snow on the ground, add some Christmas lights,
totally.
and then it's a Christmas horror movie, and you can market it like that.
Right.
Make your horror movies happen during Valentine's Day. Yeah. Why does that not happen? Why is there so little Valentine's Day horror movies? It's quite strange.
Totally, yeah.
Make it take place during Thanksgiving. Give us a 4th of July horror movie. Like, just add, especially when, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of horror movies don't have the story to carry along movie.
Yes.
Just a little thing that gives you extra lines for no reason, basically. Yeah. Like, Merry Christmas and what are you doing for Christmas? Like those are lines that you just get because you made the movie happen during this time.
Totally.
And I think that goes a long way, especially in the horror genre.
Yeah, especially I mean there's not very many popular Thanksgiving movies, and I feel like that's something people should really be capitalizing on, you know.
But speaking of Thanksgiving movies,
yes.
Thanksgiving came out this year.
Yeah.
It is directed by Eli Roth.
Slay. Who
has done some wait, hold up. I'm thinking of. I think I got him confused with somebody else. But he directed Cabin Fever. Mm-hmm. He directed The Green Inferno. Hostel. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe, or I think he's an actor that I know. Maybe not. Okay, well, never mind. I definitely got him confused with somebody. He's in Godzilla, Jurassic World. Mm-hmm. He's in a few things as an actor. So he's not a nobody, but I thought he was a much bigger name than that for some reason. But anyways, you want to give us our description?
Yes.
Or our synopsis?
Yes, I will.
Preview, whatever it's called.
Yes. Okay. There will be no leftovers. After a Black Friday riot ends in tragedy, a mysterious Thanksgiving-inspired killer terrorizes Plymouth, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the holiday, picking off residents one by one. What begins as random revenge killings are soon revealed to be part of a larger sinister holiday plan.
So you gave this movie 4 stars. I gave it 3.5.
Oh, boo. You gave every movie in this episode 3.5 stars. I did,
actually. And let me think about that for a second. Yeah, I think all 3 of these movies are on par with each other.
No, Thanksgiving deserves at least 4 stars.
Maybe not. Maybe Thanksgiving does deserve that extra bump.
I know.
You got me. No, I'm changing it right now. You're right.
Oh, yeah.
No, Thanksgiving. That is one of the ways that I think keeps my reviews consistent. Is every so often I'll go through and I'll sort my movies by star rating, and I'll scroll through and make sure that all my 5-star movies I think are all comparable, all my 4.5, so on and so forth. And sometimes like comparing these 3 movies and going, actually Thanksgiving is like a little step above those other 2 movies. Helps correct it. But this movie has 13,000 3.5-star reviews and 13,000 4-star reviews. So people are pretty specific on this movie that they love it.
Yes.
3.5 and 4 stars are pretty solid ratings.
Yeah, they are.
This movie was so much fun.
Oh my gosh, I love this movie. This was like one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It's very My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah,
like, it is
totally
insanely My Bloody Valentine. When I saw the ad for this in theaters with my boyfriend Parker, he remarked on how much it is similar to My Bloody Valentine, and I was like, no way. And then I went and saw it, and I was like, oh.
Well, I also the bad guy in this movie carries an axe and is kind of a big man and like kind of runs stiff, and that's exactly My Bloody Valentine.
Yes.
Carries the pickaxe, big stiff, like dark clothing, mask.
It's in the town, like with the history,
right?
And like
exactly. And I had so no expectations for this movie, and I was so impressed by it and really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Let's get into so before we get into spoilers, it's a great whodunit slasher film.
Yeah, it is.
It's, like, very good.
Yes.
I would put the whodunit side of it and guessing who it is like a couple steps below Scream.
Yeah, totally.
And that's saying a lot,
yeah,
you know. So, but let's start breaking down. We'll get into our spoiler section. So if you want no spoilers, stop now. The movie, how does this movie open? I'm drawing a blank.
Are you serious?
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, I remember now. It opens on Thanksgiving night at the store.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it doesn't actually.
Not?
No. It opens at their house. Remember, they're about to have Thanksgiving dinner, and then the dad is like, I gotta go to work because.
Right.
And I realized as we were watching it that they're at dinner with his boss. Like, his boss is at dinner with them because they're friends. Are they two different dinners?
Yeah, there's two different dinners.
No, they aren't.
I thought the same thing.
Are you
serious? But yeah, there is we do get glimpses of two different dinners, and it does a really bad job of showing that. But there's the rich boss and his dinner, and then there's the cop and worker, and they're at the dinner together. But the families are not at dinner together. No.
Oh my gosh.
Because I thought the same thing, but later we get more shots of the house, the rich person's house, and it's a completely different house than the smaller dinner.
Why did I think that?
I thought the exact same thing. They don't do a really good job differentiating the two. Both houses kind of have similar looks to them, and they're also like Thanksgiving dinners.
Yeah.
So
how embarrassing!
But,
I just embarrassed myself in front of all my friends and family.
It opens at two different dinners. It opens at the rich guy's house who owns the store that's opening on Thanksgiving, which is fueled by the new wife, stepmother of the main character.
Yes.
Or not the... Is it the main character?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also there's a worker and the sheriff, and they're also at their Thanksgiving dinner. And they end up all having to go out to the store because the store's opening on Thanksgiving and they have some crazy sales. So the mob is out ready to go shopping on Thanksgiving. And the group of kids that the movie focuses on is driving by the store, and they realize they need something from the store. I don't remember what it is.
Oh gosh, I don't remember either.
Because they're one of them is the owner's kid. They go into the store and they have a verbal altercation with one of the guys in line because they're both on football team rivals and they're talking trash a little bit, which fuels them to go into the store and taunt this entire mob of people outside trying to get in. And it basically ends up they're storming the building, people get trampled, and it just
like trampled to death.
And escalates and escalates. And people are like killing each other for these toasters, and it is
ridiculous.
Like, it's like on a steady pace like this, and then it goes like this, and then it just goes straight up.
Oh my gosh, it is ridiculous. But then you start like you're like, this would never happen. But then you think about it, and it's like stuff like this does happen. Like
I mean, I do think
not as dramatic.
It's a little over the top for sure.
100%.
But yes, there have been people who have been trampled at Black Friday sales,
which is insane.
And I don't know, like. It's definitely not as common as people would like to make you think, or this movie would like to make you think,
totally.
At least. But it has happened before, and people have been trampled because people are trying to run into the store. But since then, stores have gotten a lot smarter about how they handle things and how they do lines and not just letting everyone approach the door. But and then it just the store just goes insane basically, and it just ends and jumps a year into the future, which was just a crazy way to open this movie.
Yeah, it was.
And then a year later, we're catching up on where people have been. The store is still going to open on Thanksgiving again, and then people start dying because John Carver, who is a real person, right? Yes. Like, so, because it takes place in Plymouth. So there's history of Thanksgiving because it's Plymouth and the first Thanksgiving, and they're handing out John Carver masks for the parade.
Which is so funny to me.
And somebody puts on a John Carver mask and a pilgrim hat and starts chopping people up with an axe.
Yeah. That's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it is so funny. The mask, the whole idea of the movie is just like so funny. And I like almost view it as a comedy because it's like so
definitely
over the top and ridiculous.
Very comedic in some of the ways that, well, it's definitely not a perfect comparison to Scream.
Yeah.
But it's very comedic in similar ways to Scream.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as self-aware as Scream,
totally.
which is where a lot of the comedy comes from there.
Yeah.
But some of the other stuff, some of the over-the-top kills, the kills in this movie were
my gosh,
over the
insane.
top. But they were kind of creative.
They were good.
There's one scene where it's a kill in a restaurant, and the guy opens the walk-in, or he shoves the girl's head under the water, opens the walk-in freezer and shoves her face to it. So her face like instant freezes to the freezer, and he rips her head off. And you even said something to me in the theater. You were like, whoa, that was really creative for something like that. And it was. And that's kind of how the entire movie went.
Yeah. This was like so Thanksgiving vibes. This was like, I mean, it's called Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But like there was not one point in the movie where I was like, what holiday is it supposed to be
No,
again?
we get a guy that's dressed up in a turkey costume that gets decapitated.
Yes, I forgot about that.
There's a Thanksgiving Day parade.
Yeah.
This movie.
There's a kill in which a lady becomes a turkey that they all are going to eat. Yeah.
I mean, Kristy had like a little bit of sprinkle on top of flavor of the holiday. This movie is the holiday. I mean, it takes place in Plymouth. There's talk about the first Thanksgiving.
Yes.
You know, there's so much about it.
There's like the tension of families that comes with the holidays too.
Absolutely.
Like a lot of and like oh my gosh, I just loved this movie and I liked the characters and I was really. There has not been a movie in a long time where I'm like rooting for the teenage characters for some reason, like a horror movie.
Yeah,
like I feel like I'm always just like they're all annoying. Just get rid of them. But like they really seemed like friends, and they were like really
definitely.
And I was sad every time something happened to one of them because I was like, oh no, they're all gonna be so sad. And there was like the friend group. There was a bunch of people, like, this cast was so crazy to me because there were people that were, like, so well-known, like Patrick Dempsey and Addison Rae, which I don't know if you know who Addison Rae is.
I mean, I know the name for sure.
She's a TikToker.
Yeah.
And she's been, like, doing movies around and stuff. Like, there are names that are really well-known. And then there's, like, the main girl who is played by Nell Verlaque. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Verlaque.
Sure.
But I couldn't tell you who that is. Yeah. Like, I have no idea. And then there's like some middle of the road people like Milo Manheim. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but he was like on like a dancing competition show and he's been in a few Disney Channel original movies and now he's he's like branching out into more movies and like so it's like there's like the cast is so diverse. Like they're like It's I'm looking at it now and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I know that person immediately, but then there's other people that I'm like,
are total
I have no idea who you are, and they're so mixed in there. You know?
The mystery aspect of who the killer was kept us guessing for far longer than most horror movies
absolutely.
do. And also, I will say, called it.
Yeah,
but,
you did.
It was. With that said, I almost got it in the classic Anna way of guessing every other character in the movie first. But that's because it really had you guessing.
It did.
And it had the whole boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, current boyfriend dynamic of the movie. And there were so many people that could have been the killer. So much so that I was convinced it was two people.
Yes, same.
It had to be two people because there was so much motive for all of the different characters. And they did a really good job with that. And I had a ton of fun with the movie.
Oh my gosh.
I look forward to watching it every year.
Totally.
And
they definitely wanted us to think it was different characters too.
Oh,
like at one point there was like something that was like it's definitely that person for every character.
Right.
Especially like a very specific point was when the boyfriend and the girlfriend, the teenagers, disappeared.
Yeah.
Like in the school. I was like, it's them. It
right,
has
and we're
to
like,
be them.
where did they go? And then we find out they got kidnapped off screen, which, but yeah, I mean, but even after the reveal, I was like, so who's the second one? And you were like, there's not. Like, we would
they
know
would
by
have
now.
come in.
And I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right, but like, there's got to be a second one.
Speaking of there's got to be a second one, they so set this up to have a second movie, like 100%. Like, this is going to get a sequel.
I want sequels.
I want a sequel,
too. I want a Thanksgiving franchise.
I don't usually want sequels, but I want a sequel for this.
I want more Thanksgiving movies.
Yeah.
I want a Thanksgiving horror movie every year. Like, start pumping them out.
Oh, that's too much.
They could jump around to different towns.
Oh, my gosh.
Do different Thanksgivings in different places.
Yeah.
But yes, no, I do want a sequel from it. And I think it actually got some success. So
yeah, 100%. I mean, the reviews are really good, and like,
they're really
when
good.
we saw it,
even
there were
the
lots
Rotten
of people
Tomato
there.
reviews are great.
Are they?
Yeah, we saw it in a full theater. We went on like a Wednesday night or something like that.
There's a ton of people
and I
there.
expected it to be like a pretty quiet evening, and it was the smallest theater that they offer, but the entire top half of it was packed, and there were some people in front of us too. So I enjoyed it. Horror is in such a great place right now.
Totally.
Like, we are getting the most ridiculous
not taking ourselves too seriously,
that are just doing so well at the box office. I mean, last year we got Black Phone, Smile, and Halloween Ends, which Halloween Ends wasn't good, but the amount of money that those movies made, I forget exactly what the numbers are, but those three movies had a collective budget of like $37 million, and they made like well over $200 million, which is insane, because the new Marvel movie that just came out, The Marvels, haven't seen it yet. That movie had a budget of like $250 million, and it hasn't even come close to making that back yet.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and to get three major horror movies that have a budget of like
significantly
not
less.
even 1/10, like even less than that each, and to make far more money than that, because it was collective. It was $37 million for all three.
I see.
So, and to have those movies just take off, horror's in such a good place right now. I'm so excited for the genre. But we do have some news. I don't know. Yeah, let's just talk about it real quick.
Okay.
We're losing the two main characters from Scream.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say her character name. It's Sam Carpenter.
Are you gonna say
Sam?
it?
No, I'm not. Sam. What is her name?
I don't know. It's Sam.
Yeah, but Sam and Tara.
Yeah, Sam and Tara
from Scream are no longer going to be a part
with
of
us.
the franchise.
Yes.
Melissa Barrera.
Yeah.
And Jenna Ortega are both gone. Probably. I mean, they are gone.
Yeah.
I just say probably because I don't want to.
Someone's in denial.
I am, because Scream was never going to be made again, and it came back and it did great with Scream 5, and then it came back with Scream 6, and we were like, we have another franchise here. Like, we can get where Scream is revitalized.
Yeah.
Like, where there were questions. 5 I loved, but there was some controversy around it. Not everyone was super into it, but it was overall a success and got a 6, and 6 was very positively received.
Yeah.
So like we're getting it, and then Sam's character, Melissa,
I don't remember.
Barrera,
yeah.
She was fired for a social media post about the conflict with Israel Palestine right now. So she got fired for that, and then Jenna asked to be let out of her contract. So that's the other reason I say probably, because they haven't said for sure that they're letting Jenna out of her contract. They could try and force her to do it, but it's a little unsure on why she wants out.
There's a billion different stories.
It definitely has to do with Wednesday season 2.
Yes.
But also it seems like she might be kind of unhappy with the firing of Melissa. So it sounds like maybe it's a little of both. Maybe she was kind of on the fence about it, and then she got fired, so then she's like, yeah, just let me out.
Yeah.
But no, we don't actually know.
Yeah.
I don't think she has spoken on it. I don't think her agent has spoken on it, at least yet. Maybe they have, and I just haven't caught it quite yet. But it sounds like she is probably gone as well. And Radio Silence, the directing pair that did 5 and 6 are also gone.
Yeah.
So we're back to square zero.
Yeah.
Everything could change.
Yeah.
And we're right back to when they announced that they were doing Scream 5.
Yeah, totally.
All of that worry is back. The people, I think Kevin Williamson, the script writer, is probably involved still. I haven't seen anything that says he isn't, but he wrote the script for 5 and 6. So we'll probably get a script out of him. But he also wrote the script for Scream 3. So, like, we don't only get good scripts out of him, but generally we get good scripts. So hopefully Scream 7, they haven't announced it's canceled. I don't think they're going to cancel it.
Yeah, I don't think so. Oh, 100% they're not. It's Scream.
Yeah.
Even if it's absolute garbage, they're going to release it, which would literally suck.
That's just such a bummer to me because they are the horror movie franchise that hit 5 out of 6 times.
Yeah, totally.
Like, and the 6th time is not a horrible movie. It's like better than most bad horror movies.
Yeah.
It's of course not great, but just the fact that it has that cast and it's Ghostface just adds so much more to it, So I'm really nervous for Scream 7 now.
I have to say, I was not a fan of Sam or Tara, so
yeah, I mean,
I have to be honest.
I've been pretty vocal about my dislike for Sam's character, but she was so much better in Scream 6. Like that I rewatched Scream 5. I didn't get to Scream 6 in October, but I rewatched Scream 5 and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't stand her. But Scream 6, she comes a long way. She does a lot better. I liked the love interest with the guy from across the hall.
Yeah, totally.
And I liked his character.
Yeah.
And Jenna Ortega's just a great actor.
Yeah.
So I think 6 was actually not, she wasn't as good in 6 as in 5.
Like her acting or the character?
Her character. I liked her character in 5 more. Her character in 6 was very whiny, like, let me live my life. I don't care. I just and although I think some of those things are relatable, it was a little over the top.
Totally, yeah.
But when it found out that Melissa Barrera was gone, I was like, okay, well now is like Jenna Ortega's moment to be the main character.
You even
really,
texted that to me,
build around her character, and I thought that was going to be an overall good thing for the movies. But now that she's trying to get out of it, it might come down to Chad and Mindy.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise
me.
Me. No,
I really like both of their characters. And maybe this is a reason to pay Neve and get Sydney back.
Right, that's true.
Which I don't really want them to do.
They also have the whole Kirby aspect, and there's someone else. So I can't remember.
Yeah, there is things they could do with it.
Yeah,
but they're being forced to get creative. They don't want to get creative.
Yeah.
So hopefully they do well under that pressure, and we get a great Scream 7.
Yeah,
but I don't expect to see that movie till probably 2025 or 2026 now.
Yeah, totally.
Where I was thinking we would get it, I was thinking we might even get it like late next year.
Yeah.
But this is gonna halt everything.
Right.
So it's a bummer.
It is.
But hopefully in the long run we get some good Scream content again.
Yeah, hopefully.
And then our final thing to talk about. Oh, actually, how did we not say this at the beginning? This is our anniversary episode.
Happy anniversary.
We've officially been doing the podcast for a year. A little bit over, actually. But, so that's cool.
Yeah,
it's our 1 year episode, even though it's only like episode 18, 19, 20, something like that.
Happy birthday to us.
But yeah, we've been going for a year. We're going strong.
Yeah,
we
are.
Our next episode will be our 12 Days of Christmas horror episode, which was one of my favorite episodes we've ever done on the podcast.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that one. So we're going to revisit our list and see if anything can be dethroned from its place. See if the infamous Red Snow or I Trapped the Devil, the most contentious ones on there, see if we find new spots for those. But I've already seen 3 new Christmas horror movies that I hadn't watched before. And I've got more that I'm looking for. Tubi. I think it's Tubi, is a free platform, and it has a ton of Christmas horror on it.
It is insane, yeah.
Like a ton of Christmas horror on it. So if you're looking for Christmas horror movies, just go to that platform. But I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's all we got. You look like you're dying over there.
I have something in my eye.
Well, we're just going to cut it here. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye. Slay.